Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our commitment is to help, hope, and healing of our veteran family and our nation. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. Join us as we continue the mission of leadership and commitment to our communities and our great country. Why, you never know where we're going to go or who you're going to meet. We invite you to join in, plug in, and share in what we do. This is your Veterans Impact Show. Well, good day, and I got to tell you, we've got a great opportunity for you this afternoon. It is a really, really, really beautiful day, and we are in the heat of the summer, so this is going to be a hot program. I've got to introduce my co-host and my pastor, Cedric White, Heart Fellowship. Cedric, thank you. Thank you for being here and joining me.
It's wonderful to be back, Jim. Thank you for having me back and saving my space.
Oh, without a doubt. Because Diane and I are going to con you into taking us to Jamaica.
Okay.
And, you know, because we've got family down in Jamaica now.
All right, there you go.
I want to go.
That's right.
I want to go.
That's right.
I've been to the other islands in the Caribbean, and that's just terrific. I say a special thank you to DBTV, the Internet TV network that puts us on Amazon Fire, Roku, Apple TV, Smart TV, Spotify. They put us around the world, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Also, AUN TV out in Northern California. Thank you, AUN, and I'm so glad that you're there in Northern California. I hope you can change California. It's important that we all work together, and that's one of the things about our program. It's all about help, hope, and healing, and working together. A special thank you to Fairway Independent Mortgage, my company, my NMLS number, 311548, corporate 12289. And to keep the attorneys happy, we are an equal opportunity lender. We're actually the largest non-bank mortgage company throughout the nation, even in Hawaii. Also, Symbios Integrative Health. They help veterans, they help first responders, they help everyone. So look up Symbios, SYMBIOS, CCN.com, and to Heart Fellowship and Healing Thine Heart Ministries. That is my brother Cedric's deal.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And it's fantastic. And Cedric and I are going to be talking more about this, but we're going to hold a special breakfast on Veterans Day called Into the Fire. We're going to be talking about the fire of life. So you're going to be talking about the fire of marriage. I've got a very, very special guest coming who lived through the Oriskany fire, lived through being a POW in Vietnam, and was an interceptor pilot. And I got to tell you, a great man who's lived through the fire. So Dave Carey will be with us for that event on Veterans Day at the Hope Center. So we want you to be there. Just let us know. Now, what have we got today? I think we've got something that I never knew of. I thought was great. So Jordan, would you play that intro that we've asked you to play? Welcome, Liz Harling, Executive Director of Faith and Grief. What a great, great thing you guys do. Tell us, where did it get started, Liz?
Well, the idea for Faith and Grief was we have three co-founders, and we're working in the grief space, realized that there wasn't enough support for people when they were having difficulty processing the death of a loved one. And they wanted to solve that problem as best they could. And it was falling to people like you, Cedric, ministers, yes, and people that were expected to take care of that in the church, and yet there was so much. And so our founders created a gathering, which is an opportunity for people to come together as peers and to talk about their grief and with facilitated table discussions to be able to express their emotions and find comfort and hope.
You know, without a doubt, that is that is so important, because I think my generation and then military on top of it, you didn't allow yourself to grieve.
No.
Right, Cedric?
Exactly. I found out after I left corporate America how harsh we treat individuals. We give them, you lose, I don't care who it is you lose, you get 3 days. You get 3 days to grieve. You get 3 days to be expected to come back and go to work, perform at the same level when there's no time limit on grief. But I didn't realize that until I got to the counseling and ministerial side of grief. And it's like, wow, all those years that you expected people to just come back and bounce right back. And that's not normal. That's not natural.
Well, I'm a perfect example. My mother, I was very close to. I was 29 years old, and she died. She was an artist. She was a school teacher, as I was telling you. She taught in the Grove. And Mother had introduced me to art, music, literature. And my dad was a CPA, but my mother and I were very close, which frequently happens, especially when your mother is a teacher. And my mother died a horrific death of cancer. It took over a year. And I just put the rose on the casket, hugged my grandmother. Service was over, got in the car, drove to San Diego. And I actually just put it away. It just almost like it didn't happen, but it did.
Yes.
And I think it's affected me many times in my life. So when you talk about peers doing this, do you have a training program that goes with this, Liz? Tell us about that.
We do. Our main program is our gathering, which is a once a month drop-in program. It's free to the participants, and it's run by volunteers at a church, at a community center, at a healthcare center. Wherever we find the group of volunteers that's interested in doing this, we go in, train them how to conduct these small table discussions, how to be facilitators for that. We have the whole structure for each meeting, that they have a speaker. There's some different readings from different faith literature, and then they break up into these small tables. And it's just amazing. Every time you'll find a connection. I took a friend of mine to our location here in Dallas at First Presbyterian Church, Dallas, downtown. And she had no connection with that facility. But her son had died in a motorcycle accident in Hawaii. And this was about a month later. And she was having a lot of trouble acknowledging the death because it took place away from her. And they went down there and took care of all the things you have to take care of when someone dies. But then she came back and she went back to work. And, like you were saying, it's just there's this expectation that you'll be fine. But she was not fine. And so I took her to this gathering, and something always shows up. There was another person at that gathering who had a child who liked to ride motorcycles. And they had a lot of similar experiences, and, just really felt that this person understood her, or they had something in common. And that's what we find. People come to our programs and they hear about, someone else's grief story. And then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not going crazy. Maybe this is,
Well, what I'm feeling is normal, it's natural, it's a process, and it's okay, right? Quite often, especially here in the West, we're taught that we're supposed to be tough. We're not supposed to have emotions. We're supposed to just get over it. Like when I played football, coach would say, rub some dirt on it, right, and get back in there. Well, we expect us to emotionally suppress, repress what's going on and just live life. And all the time under the surface, this is boiling up. And if we don't process it, it's going to show up. Like you said, Jim, it's going to show up eventually.
Well, I'm older generation. My parents were World War II. My parents grew up in the Great Depression. So young boys were taught, don't cry.
Yes.
Just go put some iodine on it and don't cry. Crying is for sissies.
Yeah.
You're a man. Act like a man.
Right.
And I think that is a terrible disservice to people. And so you developed this program, if I read everything correctly, out of a horrible tragedy that happened here in Dallas.
Well, we have the gathering, the workshops, retreats, but the video that we saw at the beginning is about our memorial arch.
Okay.
And that is a special project that we have for 3 weeks every year, starting right around Thanksgiving. We provide this opportunity to the public to experience corporate grief or community grief. And it started with the tragedy in 2016 when 5 first responders were shot in downtown Dallas. And our organization, as a grief institution, thought we need to do something. We have all these programs for individuals, but we don't have anything to address that community grief, because it's not only the families of the officers that were killed, it was everybody. Dallas was just dumbstruck by...
Devastated.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in my town.
This could happen in our town, and the depth of that feeling surprised people. And so that was the first year that we created a memorial arch, an opportunity for people to take a ribbon and write the name of their loved one on it, maybe write a message to them, and then it's tied to the structure of the memorial arch. And by the end of the season, there'll be 5,000 ribbons on there.
Good heavens.
So it's not just the officers that we're remembering, but it's our own grief, within our family that we experience publicly.
Right.
Yeah.
And to see those names, like on when we talk about 9/11 and they read out the names, that recognition of hearing the name, which in a grieving person is there every minute.
Right.
It's not like it's going to bring it up all of a sudden. But to have it public and to see that display of love and care and remembrance, it was very healing for people.
Well, Liz, I can tell you every Veterans Day, I pull out a piece of paper, Diane can tell you this, with the 12 names of the pilots I lost in Vietnam in my squadron. 12. We had the highest casualty rate in the Navy in Vietnam and the Air War of North Vietnam. And I didn't know all of those men, but I knew quite a few of them. And that brings it real home, real close. I also have had a lot of friends that are police officers. And some of the work that I do right now with Symbiotes, we're working with wellness units in police departments, and they are dealing with a lot of this as well. Because it's the constant, if you don't have someone that you lose, but it's the constant threat of that as well, all of the time that we're dealing with. So this program was started before that situation.
So we had the grief support in place, as I said, but for individuals who were coming to our programs, we have the gathering. We also do a workshop that's 8 weeks that with a deeper dive into, some grief education and spiritual practices that can help you in your grief. And then we do that as a retreat as well. So those things were in place, but this was different. This was community grief. and we this will be our 10th year for the arch. So
I mean, it's commendable that you guys went beyond just, wow, something needs to be done, right? That's in the heart of a lot of people. Somebody needs to do something. You guys literally went into action, and this is huge, right? And I've taken a look at the site to see the arch and what is it? The lake of, what is it?
The River of Time.
The River of Time. Yeah,
Yes.
not the lake of the River of Time. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Is that on your website? Could Jordan pull that up?
yes,
Jordan,
He can go
you
to
pull that up on their website for us and show what the arch looks like. I'm sorry, that Jordan is our fantastic engineer. Man, we couldn't function without him. So if
Yeah,
you can
if
pull
you-
that up, man, and find that. But here is their website. Go to
There-
Faith and Grief.
Is that it?
There it is,
there's
right
a picture there.
Yeah,
and
right there,
there's
Jordan.
you can request a ribbon online if you can't make it to the arch. We always take them with us wherever we are. So, like, I brought ribbons today.
Look at that. That is beautiful.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we have people that come every year. And
Stop right there, Jordan.
Go back to the video. Yeah.
There you go.
we have people that come every year to remember loved ones and their family. Because it's around Thanksgiving, they're often gathered together and they remember the family members that aren't there. But we also, because we have volunteers in the park, this is in Klyde Warren Park in Dallas, we have volunteers in the park with the arch every day that it's up. So that's 3 weeks that it's there. So we have volunteers from 11:30 to 5:30, sometimes later on the weekend if we know there'll be a crowd. And people can come and experience that. And some people just are walking through the park. And then, we reach out to them, say, would you like to come write a ribbon for someone that you've
passed,
lost?
right.
And they'll come over and they'll tell us about this. And the volunteers will tell them about our services, but also about what the arch means. And they'll write a ribbon and people get very emotional, even just in
I'm
a
sure.
short amount
Right.
of time for this opportunity to remember their loved one.
What a wonderful thought to remember the loved ones. And Cedric and I are I'm a Vietnam veteran. We are veterans and we remember those lost all the time. Correct, Cedric?
Exactly.
All right. Let's take a break to hear from our partners. And the ragweed season is getting to me. Maybe. I'm sorry, I can't help it. We're about to come back with more information about grief and faith. This is Veterans Impact Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation. What a beautiful thing, this arch. Whose idea was that?
It was the board and the founders at that time in 2016.
So it's a portable structure that you erect and then...
We were in Thanksgiving Square in Dallas originally, and we had a small arch and we had a big tree, Christmas tree. And then when we had the opportunity to move to Klyde Warren Park, we had one of our supporters who's in the construction business, and she was like, you need something bigger.
At the rate you're going, you're
Right.
gonna need a bigger one.
Well, in fact, she and her team come and put it up for us every year. This will be the 10th year. They've expanded it for us, made wings on the side because we were getting more ribbons than would fit on what was originally there. It's 15 feet across.
Wow.
And
And that ribbon is about 1.5 inches wide. I got to tell you, 5,000.
But think about it, that time of year, right? Not just for what happened here in Dallas, but just that time of year. Sometimes that Thanksgiving, just the holiday season becomes a period for some people that is so hard. And I think what you're doing is giving them an outlet to deal with it, right? To go ahead and experience the emotions, right? Feel your feelings. Just don't allow the
right.
emotions to control you, but you deal with them. I think this is a wonderful outlet, and I can even see families coming out to
Exactly.
share their
And they
experience.
do,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Well, yeah, go to the Arch, do something beautiful. The kids enjoy the day versus going to a cemetery, and
Yeah.
that's somewhat of a downer right there. But that Arch is gorgeous, and the ribbons are great. Now, you were telling me what you do with it afterwards. You created a river of this?
That's right. For the 10th anniversary of our organization, which was in 2021, we worked with Dallas artist Pam Nelson. Pamela Nelson is renowned for her textile work, and she's got lots of work displayed around town. But we were lucky enough to be able to work with her to do something with all the ribbons we'd collected. So for all the years prior to 21, from 2016 to 2021, each year we take the ribbons off, but we keep them because they're a sacred object.
right.
It's not like we're going to, throw them away. And so we had hung on to them, and she had an idea because she's been through our programs. She knows about grief, and she had the idea that grief was like a waterfall when it first happens, that you go over the edge,
Right.
the bottom drops out. It's surprising and terrifying. And then over time, it never disappears.
Right.
But it meanders. Sometimes it's, rougher than others, but it like a river. So she came up with this concept, and because the colors of our ribbon were watercolors, green and white and blue.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
And-
Lift them up. Show people
Yeah.
what they look
So
like. Those
there's
are great.
just these are some of our colors, and so she created this artwork, weaving together the ribbons, and we, depending on how we hang it, about a 20-foot drop for the waterfall portion, and then the remainder going out in a river.
Right.
Last year at the 6th floor museum, it went all around the perimeter of the exhibit room and then ended in a pool in the middle that people could add their own ribbon to.
Wow. Within your grief program, you said you have peers, so they go through a very special training program, or are they psychologists and grief and peer network type specialists to start with?
No, at our gatherings where we go in and we train, let's say a church like the one at First Presbyterian Dallas, they select their leadership team. We go in, we train them just to conduct these conversations based on our format around the table. And usually that's just prompting a few questions.
Right.
And not everybody wants to talk, but just
So
guiding the
facilitating.
conversation.
Right.
Facilitating. Now, we do train in a multi-week program. We train people to deliver our workshop, which is the 8-week, 2 hours a week, deeper dive using our workbook with the spiritual practices and with more information about grief and what you can expect and what other people have found. Those people that come to that training usually have some kind of small group experience, whether they're counselors or pastoral staff or whoever.
I was going to ask you if they needed to have some type of leadership training or something, or even we do certifications, and there at least needs to be a letter, from a leader saying that this isn't some person off the street. And the reason I say that is because my father in the ministry, he was a great pastor, he was a great preacher, he was a horrible counselor. Horrible counsel. So everybody, just because you're in ministry, it doesn't mean that you have the heart or the wherewithal to do something like this. And so it requires some training, right? You may even have the heart for it, but it doesn't mean that you have the training or even, for the lack of a better term, the depth to go and to empathize with someone, right? Because I may have been a coach. I don't want to see people hurting. So, hey, just buck up. Well, no, that's not what you want to say to somebody that's hurting.
Right. But even in our workshop, it's still a peer situation.
Right.
Because it's usually a cohort of maybe 12.
Gotcha.
With the facilitator. And the facilitator's there to guide the group through the workbook, which is already set out.
Okay.
So they don't have to be a licensed counselor or something like that. But just to have had the small group experience, even a teacher like your mom, somebody that's used to working with a group of people and making sure everybody gets a chance to talk and
when you talk about spiritual, you're using scripture, is what I'm assuming.
We use scripture, and we use all of our great faith traditions have been dealing with grief for a long time.
Okay. We're going to take a break right quick, and we'll be back right after these words. This is Jim Blythe and Cedric White with Liz, and we're here with grief and
faith and grief.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation. Hey, this is Jim Blythe and Cedric White, and we're here talking about really faith and grief and an amazing memorial monument that's here in Dallas, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Now, I think it's real interesting that in the military, we go through an awful lot, and you're taught to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the toughest things in the military is marriage, without a doubt. And probably one of the best in the United States is Cedric in marriage and military counseling, and what they do for both the Department of Defense and for veterans. Cedric, there is a huge, because this is also the year that this organization is focused on veterans.
Yes.
And so for a veteran, what would you say to them about, hey, you need to go check this out? Because this is huge in terms of what we encourage or in the military.
Right.
What a military family gets.
Well, one of the biggest things from a military perspective is what we're taught, right? We're taught to, again, as we mentioned a moment ago, let's just get over it and move on. Well, we suppress, we repress, we stuff things down. But I always tell people it's like lava in a volcano. In a volcano, the heat it's rising eventually, and eventually there's going to be an explosion. The problem is you don't know when and you don't know where. So the sooner we can deal with the fact that we have had loss, we can admit it, we can accept it, we can go through the grieving process, the better off we are. But there's so many areas within a relationship, military and otherwise, that there are so many areas of loss. There's loss of a loved one. There's loss, due to divorce, which was my area of grief that I went through that almost took me out. We talk about veterans considering suicide. Well, that was my low point. It was that level of grief, and I had no one. There was nobody there. Like I said, my great pastor, horrible counselor, and so he didn't know. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to deal with it, and that's the thing. Quite often with our military training, with our spiritual training, sometimes we're still not equipped to deal with it if we haven't been taught. And so it's wonderful as to what you guys do. There's the loss of children. There's the loss of even, we've had situations where people will lose a pet, and it literally will almost take them out if they don't know how to deal with the grief. You got loss of jobs, you loss of relationships. That people grieve over a lot of things. And especially in today's society, as a counselor, we have to be very mindful of not minimizing what may be small to us may be huge to somebody else. So that level of compassion, that level of empathy has to be there for us to help them along. And so from a military perspective, from a veteran's perspective, we never know what losses, what pain they're having unless we can hopefully coax them out, get them to talk. And sometimes it is in a group, like you were talking about, Liz, it was in a group that I got my healing. It was in a group. My now soon to be 27-year wife that we're getting ready to celebrate in October, she was the one trying to get me to go to counseling to deal with the grief of the breakup of my family. And I was refusing it. I was just going to tough it out. I was all the time hurting inside. And it was in a group setting, literally 30 minutes in, my life changed. It was like you're saying, right? Just somebody was there to facilitate. And I saw that, number one, I wasn't the only one hurting. I wasn't the only one that was dealing with what I was dealing with, right? And there was life after my particular situation. And so it helped so much. So I can see how this could be, is huge. This is huge.
I will never forget when we first got started doing this, Wreaths Across America. And at that time, Chuck Wright, who is now a commissioner with TVC, and I were really close, and he was helping me. And he said, I'm going to introduce you to this lady at the National Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember her name, but her son had died in Iraq. And his grave was on the top of the hill that looked down over the valley and the little lake and the flags. And we videoed her putting her son's wreath on there, and she talked about her son. Mm-hmm. And I think that was very, very healing for her.
Therapeutic.
So you've got this program for faith and grief recovery. If people want to know more, they go to grief.org.
That's right. And it has all of the programs. It has a calendar with all of our support programs. If whatever area of the country you're in, you can see if there's a physical location somewhere close that has that once a month grief support meeting called a gathering, or you can check out our online resources. We have a great podcast, and many people will go to that and find a grief they feel is similar to their own, and that really helps them identify with it and receive some comfort from that. We are currently running an online caregivers grief gathering for people that can't leave the house because they're taking care of someone, or they have just finished taking care of someone and now are grieving them. And so that group meets online, and you can find the registration for that. And then we're going to have specific to veterans. And of course, we've got the focus of the Arch this year, and that means that not only are we talking about that, but when the Arch goes up, which is November 22nd, there will be a special program on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, for veteran organizations. And so we're inviting all of the local organizations in Dallas to participate with us, and so we'll have speakers, and we'll have, different, we've got a great vocalist who's going to sing for us. And so that event will be at the Arch. And then we're planning a grief roundtable November 3rd. And a roundtable is just one online, one-time event that addresses a specific type of grief.
Okay.
And in this one, we're going to be talking about moral injury, which is
huge.
Huge. Big for the military community.
It's not only big for military community, but it's huge throughout our nation. We see a lot of it. And I've talked to a number of psychologists and psychiatrists, and we've got an epidemic of child abuse in this nation, and we have for a long time. And it's frightening what's going on out there. This is really great and fantastic. I'm so glad. that to learn more about this, because I also worked with teenage boys in a halfway house many years ago. And man, I mean, the things that they went through, that they were grieving, that they were dealing with. And that's Celebrate Recovery, which is a church-oriented deal, but I think it's more about addictions. Here you're talking about not an addiction, but life, you know, going through. And I was telling you before we started, I'm a certified senior advisor, and I work with a lot of care families and people who are taking care of individuals. I get a lot of calls from across the nation to try and help people get aid and attendance pensions. And that is a huge thing. A child taking care of their parents in those terrible, terrible years or time, it's a horrible situation. So being able to go and talk with people who are going through the same thing takes away a lot of the fear out of it, don't you think?
Well, what Liz said a moment ago really struck an area in me, in my heart, because you talked about people who deal with having to be that caregiver, right? And sometimes that goes on for years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden now this has become your way of life, and now that person is gone. And now loss is already one thing, but to have that person gone and your way of life now suddenly changes, that's a lot to deal with. And a lot of people don't think, okay, well, you should be relieved. Well, maybe in one aspect, but in another aspect, my entire way of living has just changed.
And my identity.
My identity as that caregiver, all of them, that's huge. And people are living longer now, right? And quite often we're seeing people deal with that caregiving situation for a much longer period. So how to understand what to do there, I think that's key. And this is the first time I'm very familiar with caregiving. We have part of our organization does caregiving, but never to the point of, okay, now you're no longer a caregiver. How do you handle the grief in that? That's huge.
Right.
That's huge.
And particularly if you had been with if you'd done some anticipatory grief,
Right.
with someone with dementia or something else that means you're grieving the person they used to be, and you have a whole new situation.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never heard that term, anticipatory grief. Yeah.
Well,
that's very
it's a
appropriate.
thing.
Makes
It's a
a lot of
thing.
sense.
It does. That's very appropriate. Yeah.
Now, Liz, this is a 501c3, right?
That's right.
And you basically, how do you support this? How does that work?
The majority of our budget is fulfilled by individual donations.
Okay.
And we've got North Texas Giving Day coming up, which is a big day for us, put on by the Communities Foundation here in Dallas. And we participate in that. We try to get new donors to join us at that time, as well as our long-term supporters. And then we have sponsorships for the Arch is another way that we raise the money to support what we're doing.
Do you have a gala, a meeting, or anything
No,
like
we
that?
don't. We kind of use the Arch, the time the Arch is up as an event like that.
Now, this year, your anchors for that are some real good friends of mine.
They're terrific. They're terrific.
Aren't they amazing? Admiral Pat Walsh was a 4-star. He was Fleet Admiral of the Pacific Fleet. He went on to be Vice Chief of Naval Operations. He was scheduled to be the next Chief of Naval Operations. One of the most amazing human beings I have ever met. And I'm not just trying to talk about whether he'd been a chief petty officer or he turned out to be an admiral. He was amazing. And he now heads up a preparatory school in one of the poorest areas of Dallas. And 100% of his kids are going on to higher education or to education or the military. And that's in a neighborhood that probably, Liz, wouldn't you say maybe only 60% of the kids graduate?
No, they definitely are going to be first generation going on to higher education.
Without a doubt. And so Admiral Pat Walsh will be the, I guess what you would call him,
He and Andy are co-hosts for
Okay.
our memorial arch this year.
oh man. Well, you picked a great one with a military background.
That's right. He's going to speak on that our event on December 7th. So everybody can hear. He's a great speaker.
Yes, he
Well, having been in Vietnam on aircraft carriers, I've been to more than one memorial service for a downed pilot or someone we lost on the ship. And Cedric, you have too.
Yes.
And that's really something. And this is a great program. So again, you want to go to faith and the word and spelled out grief.org. You can find out how to donate there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You can find out how to participate. You can find out about the materials. So let's just say I'm a Presbyterian church because I grew up in Presbyterian. You know what the best thing about the Presbyterian church was? Wednesday night potluck dinner.
Oh, yeah. Family night supper.
Oh, yeah. And let me tell you, we had some incredible bakers in our church. Grew up there, loved it. Great, great, great teachers. My mother was even one of the teachers in that church, and my dad did too. But if you wanted to have this program for your church, again, people can contact you through
That's right.
this. Okay.
Contact us through our website and learn about our different programs. So you can learn to become one of our gathering sites, or you can have us come in and run a 8-week workshop, or we can schedule a retreat somewhere near you.
Oh, how great. How about with some other organizations, military organizations like VFWs or
Right.
American Legions?
Well, we are planning a grief support event in the fall with Veterans Point.
Okay, up
So
in,
that part of the
Denton County.
Military Veterans Peer Network. Yeah.
I know those people extremely well, and I know the guy Casey who is running that, who's a good friend of mine, and they do phenomenal work. That is a great
What's
place.
the date for that?
We don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and do you have maybe a specific aha moment story that you might tell us real quick, because we've got to go to break in a couple of minutes.
I just think that people, as you said, put off their experience of grief. They push it under the rug and try to get on with their life. And one of our retreat participants said, she had been in therapy, she'd been working on her grief, but it lacked the spiritual component and it lacked a community component. And she found when she went to the retreat, where she had lost 3 people, her husband, her dad, and her mom. And she went to the retreat and she was able to finally connect her grief to her life and to kind of figure out how to go forward with it instead of trying to finish it.
Right.
Because it doesn't go away.
Right.
A very close friend of mine, Bruce Hebel, wrote a book, Forgiving Forward, and Cedric has met him. And Bruce tells a story of a guy who came to him whose father had passed away, but he never knew his father. He knew of his father, but never knew his father. And he gets communication that says, your dad is gone. And he then goes to that city and goes to the cemetery, and he grieved the fact that he didn't have a dad. And he grieved the fact that he never met his dad. And he goes and meets people who his dad had married and interacted with. And it was a huge process that he went through. Forgiving his dad and forgiving all of that was part of his grief. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more, but we're going to bring this program into the dock. And Cedric and I are so thrilled to be here with you.
Yes.
So take a look, veteransimpactshow.com. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Jim Blythe and Cedric White. We are your Veterans Impact Show. Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation. I don't know why. I just thought of this, Cedric, because as a certified senior advisor, I have partnered with banks for a number of years, and I frequently get a call, and I just handled one not too long ago where a spouse had passed away, and the other spouse had not even taken care of the banks, the checking account. The wife took care of all the business, and the daughter called me. And I've had that so many in years, and the poor guy was just beside himself with not only grief, but with all of a sudden the financial responsibility.
Yes.
And on top of that, the problems involved with the fact that when a spouse dies, 95% of the families in retirement have nothing but Social Security. And when one of them passes, their lesser of the two goes away. So all of a sudden, you got financial issues, you got all of these issues, and they compound up. And I think overriding the whole thing, he and his wife have been married for 70 years.
Yes.
And suddenly the loss of that person is accentuated by just the daily routine of things that they
Yes.
did for you.
Yes. I mean, imagine, like you said, 70 years, 7 decades, right? That this has been your lifestyle. And all of a sudden, no longer. And are they there? Every aspect of your life reminds you of that person. Anything that you have to do dealing with finances reminds you of that person. And a lot of people will try. I want to avoid that. Why? Because it causes me to have to think about it. And as we're talking about for our Veterans Day program, right, going through the fire. A lot of people would rather avoid going through the grieving process because I have to face it. But it's like, this is something that you have to experience. You have to go through. It's not easy, but not impossible. And that's what we have to help people with. As a pastor, as a minister, I can't tell you the number of funerals that I've done. Right, that I either officiated or eulogized. But when my mom passed, it was totally different. When my mom passed away, this was personal. This was mine. And whereas I thought I'd go through it and I cried a few tears. But when everybody was gone and I sat at home, it took me 3 weeks to be able to go back to work. Every day I'd get dressed, and my wife and I would work together. Every day I'd get dressed. I'd sit in the media room, and she'd say, "You ready?" I said, "You go ahead. I'll meet you there." And every day she'd come home, and I'd be sitting in the same spot. I had to get over that. I had to.
Well,
The wonderful thing was she allowed me to do it. She didn't put any pressure. Get over it. Get da-da-da-da-da. You should be. She allowed me to go through that process. Everybody doesn't get that.
There's no timeline.
No.
That's right.
Not everybody gets that. And Cedric, I couldn't really grieve when my mother passed. And my father, he was in such horrific pain that it was just a blessing. But I did his remembrance service.
Right.
I was called by my cousin's wife. I had a cousin in San Diego who was in the Navy, and he and I were very close. And we talked all the time because he was also a pilot and a flight instructor. And I handled that one. And I got to tell you, when it's a member of your family, it's a special hurt.
Yes.
Because you know what? You're not going to be able to, hey, cousin,
Right.
hey, mom,
Right.
hey, dad,
Right.
guess what I did today?
Right.
Guess what happened today? Guess what the kids did today? They're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gone. And I think, again, we have to have help walking through that fire.
Right.
And I think the biggest part of that help has to be our religious faith and our faith in God. Because if you got no faith whatsoever, then you got no faith in what's going to happen as you go through the fire, that you can even get through the
Exactly.
fire.
We see people turn to other coping mechanisms, drugs, alcohol, pornography, wild lifestyle. We see people turn to very, very harmful things as opposed to, again, let us help you go through the process. Let us help you grieve. It's natural, right? And it's okay to feel that pain. It's okay because that just means you had somebody that you love, right? I tell people, you need to understand, death is normally not the issue. It's the dying, right? And quite often how somebody passes is the issue, right? But yet and still, you be the representation of keeping that person alive, right? You carry them in your heart. You tell those great stories, and it helps a long way. So.
You know, without a doubt, and Eddie Rickenbacker's book that I just read was the most dramatic story of where he was horribly, horribly injured in one of his Eastern Airline crashes, that he was there in the plane, and that he almost died 2 or 3 times. And he said, you know, all of a sudden I felt this peace and this calm, and I knew I was dying. But he said, I knew I had so much to do that I was crying out to God, and I forcibly came back. That moment, I think we need to understand, from what I have heard and read many times of people who've been through that and didn't necessarily pass away, it's a very peaceful moment. It's a very loving moment. And I think that we also have to remember the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
I will feel no evil.
right. And you know why? Because my Lord and my God is with me. And guess what? It doesn't say lie down. It doesn't say camp. It doesn't say sit. It doesn't say go through.
It says go
the
through.
valley.
That's right.
And I got to tell you, I am so blessed to have a pastor like you and men like you. So again, go to Heart Fellowship
Church
and watch Cedric. He is amazing. I got to tell you, this has been a beautiful story. Go to faithandgrief.org and spell out the word grief, and you're going to learn about a great thing. So I close with a prayer. I'm going to do it real quick. Lord God, we just thank you for people like Liz and for the Walshes and many others who are peers who help us with grief. We thank you, dear God. We put a hedge of a protection, and we have authority over that to protect our active duty military who are stationed throughout the world to protect us. We protect our first responders as well. And dear God, we thank you for that protection and the authority you've given us. Dear God, help us to bring this nation back together. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This we pray in Christ's holy name today. Thank you. And amen. Thank you. Veterans Impact Show, we're here next week.